Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello and welcome to On the Aisle with me, Tom Alvarez. My guests on today's episode are husband and wife, Jolene and Michael Moffatt. She's a freelance actor, director, and acting coach, and he is a teacher, technical director, and sound and lighting designer. Join me now as I go on the aisle for a conversation with Jolene and Michael. Good morning, Jolene and Michael. I'm just so thrilled that we're finally able to put this together. Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I was looking over your bios and I realized that, over the last, I don't know, 40 years maybe. So I've been covering the arts for a while, as you know, and over the last 40 to 50 years, I can say that in so many cases, at least you two, I've seen most of your body of work.
Yeah.
Jolene, either you on the stage or, your directing work, and Michael, certainly your set designs, your lighting, we worked together at one time. So,
Yeah.
I love the fact that we have such a long, rich history.
Me too.
We do.
Me too. Michael and I were just talking last night about how, we can start saying things like, we met in the 1900s. We got married in the 1900s. It sounds like we're ancient.
Oh, that is hilarious. I have to start using that. Put that in perspective.
Right? I've been around the block a couple times, y'all.
Yeah, it sounds ancient, right? Like
Right.
the turn of the century, that used to seem like so far away. Now it, Okay, so when did we first cross paths? Michael, you and me, it was when I was managing director of the Edavine Repertory Theater. And
Yeah.
you were, your title was technical director, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we were housed at the then Christian Theological Seminary.
Right.
And
Shelton Auditorium.
Shelton Auditorium. And I'm blanking on the year. Could it have been like 97 or so?
I think you're about right.
Well,
What
I
were
have
you
a
going to say?
plaque up on my wall that Rose Kleiman gave me when I left, and I can't see it. But anyway, wow, those years still resonate with me, that whole talk about trauma.
It was a
Yes.
magical place, though. Let's not lose sight of that,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh no, no, no. I don't
That space was, I grew up in that space. It taught me everything I know about being open and leading with your heart and, because you had to be open because the audience was all above you and doing diagonals and all that stuff. It was just a magical. And then
For our listeners who were never there, Jolene, talking about the physical surrounds, describe that theater. It's like, it's difficult to describe unless okay, but go ahead, try.
Well, when you walk in at street level, right? And then it's almost like going to a ball game in that you walk in and then everything is below you, right? The court is down at the bottom. Same thing with this space. The stage, a big three-quarter thrust with two VOMs that are off to either side of the stage, and then a big back area as well. But we wanted to do most of the stuff out in the thrust because your audience was also three-quarter thrust around you and totally above you. There would be somebody right at your eyesight, and then the rest of the audience was all above you. So you had to always be sure you were open so that everybody could see you because back in the day, we were packing that place full of people. My favorite part about that space was not only getting to act in it, but what the technical magic that happened in it, because it was a team of Claire G, John Lamson, Michael Moffatt, David Strohmeyer, and then, Rose at the helm. And then there were a couple of different executive directors. You were one of them. But we always made such a point of painting the floor because that's what you saw when you walked into the
Of
room,
course.
and so the floors were always spectacular. And then Michael was able to light it, and it was just a really wonderful, wonderful space.
Michael,
It's
how
like
about you? Tell me your perspective.
I always describe it as an oak indoor amphitheater
Oh yeah, that's great.
because the space was that perfectly done oak.
Hmm.
It was on the walls, it was on the ceiling, on the
That's right.
floors. It was just, it was really
And remember, of course,
warm.
for those who've never been there, you're sitting on how to describe it. It's not like traditional theater seating. You don't have
Right.
Not
elbows.
at all.
You have
So yeah,
arms between you and the person
the
next to
seats
you,
were almost
and
pew-like.
you're against a wall, basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yes,
it's not the most comfortable place, but it was built for lectures, was it not?
I think
yes,
that's right. Yeah, I
I think
Yeah.
think
it
that's right.
was. And then the upstage was actually supposed to be a small TV studio.
And so tell me, I'm trying to remember the circumstances, but was there a shop? Well, there had to have been a shop.
Yeah, you could call it that. There was a space that you could do some cutting of wood in, but it was not it was not a full-fledged shop. But yes, there was an area, it was underneath the seating. So all of the backstage was really taken up by a dressing room and the costume shop. But underneath the seating, there was this kind of angled space that you could do things in. We stored props there. We really used every inch of that space. It was pretty
Uh,
cool.
and when we were given 30 days notice to vacate the premises, all of that
Mm.
stuff
Yeah,
Gosh.
moved, right?
Yeah.
it was overwhelming. And then what was overwhelming were all the volunteers that helped us move it, and then the efforts of John Lamson. Really,
Oh,
he kind
yeah.
of I don't know. He put it into high gear, and he took so much stuff in his truck over to UND where we were moving, and it was just it was quite a move.
And the Catholic guilt remains for me because it just so happened that I had a previously committed plans to go to Europe. So I
Mm.
wasn't there.
Mm.
I just
Oh,
Okay.
thought, oh my God.
abandon us in our time of need.
And here I am. I'm supposed to be running this place, and all of you fabulous people were moving this 30-year
Mm.
theater, across town, the University of Indianapolis. I mean, it really, really was a Herculean effort. And
Yeah.
that just said a lot about the volunteers, but also
Right.
just our community, the volunteerism in general. It was spectacular, wasn't
Mm.
it?
Yes,
It was.
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah. And Jolene, did you guys meet there? Let's talk about your romantic history. People
We
want to know.
did. Oh, sure they do. Well, back in the 1900s, the late 1900s, David Strohmeyer got hired at the Edavine, and he was going to direct The Importance of Being Earnest. And I was going to come and be his assistant director. And I remember the first day of rehearsal, I got there early, just like you, Tom. I like to be early. And I was sitting in the house trying to get my bearings in this new space. I had never been there. And Michael Moffatt, tall, long blonde hair, big beefy guy, kind of new out of college, walks across the stage, and I thought, oh, well, he's nice. And that was in August. And then by March, we were together, and we have been together ever since.
Wow,
We
you're
got
a
married
true,
in that space.
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a true theater romance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
Mm-hmm.
Michael,
for sure.
tell me oftentimes I love asking people how they met because a lot of times they have like kind of different stories. What's
Sure.
yours?
Uh-huh.
Same?
Probably just kind of from the opposite end of that, I was standing on stage. I looked up and I saw Jolene in the house, and she just kind of caught my eye because Jolene just has, I don't know, there's something about Jolene that that you can't not look at her.
Mm.
She's very attractive. So I
Ah,
just I don't know. I just remember seeing her, and then I couldn't keep my eyes off of her, and I was so interested in her. I was like, I've got to get to know her.
oh,
And
wow.
then David was like, "Oh yeah, you should definitely get to know her. She's really nice." And so yeah, and we were friends for a long time before we finally made the switch.
Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm.
So David Strohmeyer
Hmm.
was this incredibly brilliant, talented designer, actor, director. I mean, at the
Yes.
time, he was a kid. I knew his uncle and aunt. I
No,
knew
sure.
when he was
Hmm.
a kid. We sat outside on the patio. He was a student, like at Mooresville or
Yeah, that's right. He went to
Marshall.
Mooresville.
And he was telling me, I had just come back from a trip to New York, and you could tell his eyes were as big as, dinner plates. And he was like so mesmerized. He had all these questions. And I just could tell from him that this kid's got talent. I'd not
Yeah.
seen his work, but
Hmm.
and then so he goes on to New York and then all of that. But he was something, wasn't he?
Yes, and we should
Yes.
say is because he's still alive.
Yeah, and I
And
know that but he's moved on to, he's not doing theater. He's like, he owns a business. He's still a designer, right?
yes, he's still a designer, mostly
Yeah.
floral arranging.
Yes.
So he does a lot of big corporate events, a lot of weddings, that kind of stuff. He keeps very busy, but
And
yes,
he
extremely
does no more,
talented.
he doesn't do theater anymore, to your
He
knowledge?
hasn't done theater in a long, long
Oh,
time.
wow.
Yeah, I know. I know. It breaks my heart.
Well, I mean, maybe he'll have a comeback and do
Yeah,
some
you never
fabulous.
know.
God
That's
knows
right.
there are plenty of opportunities in this town, and you two
Yeah.
should know, if
Yeah.
Hmm.
anybody.
Mm.
I mean, again, looking at your bio, Jolene, Phoenix Theater Cultural Center, the Phoenix
Mhm.
Cultural Center would you say is that your artistic home?
I would say that, yes. It's where I'm able to work the most because even though they're an equity house, they rehearse during the evenings, and I have a full-time day job, so I can rehearse there. Like at Beef and Boards and IRT, you have to be available from 10 to 6, and I'm not.
Uh-huh.
So at the Phoenix, I can still get my equity contract and yet rehearse in the evening. So it's really great.
Okay, and you've also not only acted there, but you've done some directing there as well, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Over the years, I know it's hard to answer this question, but what are some of your favorite roles? Let's go there first.
Oh my gosh, Tom. I don't know why I didn't think you wouldn't ask me that question, but poof. Oh
Can I
my
name
gosh. Yeah, sure.
what one of my favorite roles that Jolene has done was Kate in Taming of the Shrew. And that was a
Mhm.
long, long time ago. And it was when we were first, dating still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were still just dating at the time. But anyway, that particular production for me was a kind of artistic coming of age for me personally, because
Where
I was
was
able.
this
This was
state?
at the Edivine. This was at
Yeah.
the
Okay,
Edivine.
okay,
Yeah,
all
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
I saw it, of course. All right, go on.
And Steve Hanna did the set design. Another brilliant designer,
Right.
who I don't think he does theater anymore either, does he?
I haven't heard his name in a while.
It was just one of those productions where we used amazing costumes. The production values were very high,
Right. It
and
was a full package. Exactly. That's exactly right. It was a great
yeah,
big cast and really
really good
imaginative
sound
direction.
even.
And yeah,
So
right.
anyway,
Yeah. It was good stuff. It was good. It was fun. Even though, of course, I have all kinds of problems with the play, it was still a really great experience. I also, one of my favorite roles I've done is Doreen in Tartuffe, especially
Oh,
the
yeah.
Richard Wilbur translation. I love that role. She's sassy and strong, and she kind of whips the house into shape and sees Tartuffe for what he is, and she's a great role. And then another one of my favorite experiences recently, right before the pandemic, 2019, we did a show at the Phoenix called The Hotel Nepenthe. And it was one of those, it was a play where I got to play multiple characters. And that is my favorite thing to do, not just carry one story forward all night, but to be able to do good, rich character work. And the Hotel Nepenthe was this quirky, out of time, out of space kind of show that I got to play, I think five or six or seven or eight characters. It was just a lot of fun. And again, the all the design elements came together and it was well directed and it was a four-hander and so it was an intimate experience and it was in the little black box theater at the Cultural Center. And it was a really great show too.
I've reviewed you a lot over the years, and I can say with authority, you are a bona fide character actor,
Thank you.
and you have everything I've seen you
Absolutely.
do. I have believed you. I've
Oh,
not
thank you.
seen Jolene up there. I've seen the character. You have drawn me in, and I can't think of a better way to communicate that talent that you possess,
Hmm.
that ability to transform, to be a chameleon. That's kind of an overused word, but yeah, you really have that ability.
That's
And
very kind. Thank you very much.
no, I never say anything that's disingenuous. That would be an insult to the artists that I write about. But in any
Mhm.
case, yes. And I can always depend when I see your work that you have spent some time developing that character. Well, now let's talk about something that makes you special as an actor. You're one of the core people in this town that studied with Bill Simmons. First of all, let's tell people who Bill Simmons is and then talk about his Meisner class.
Okay, so let me just just to be clear, I did not study with Bill. I studied with the same teacher that Bill did.
Okay, all right.
So we studied with Martha Jacobs,
Okay,
who
yeah, yeah.
teaches at IU, and she teaches the Meisner technique. And for a little while during her career, she offered, you didn't have to be a graduate student at IU. She would offer classes. She required that you get a group of folks together, and she taught them out of her home. And it is a 2-year commitment, which is a commitment, especially when you know you got actors trying to knock out work. Every week you go to class. It's a 3-hour class. So then Bill Simmons studied with Martha and he said, "Hey, you should really take this class. I highly recommend it." So I too studied with Martha. And then Bill taught the class 3 times, 3 different
But
cohorts he taught. And he would always bring me in to just give notes or my perspective. And then it always seemed like there was always an odd number of folks by the time it came around to finals. So I got to even do some scene work with them as they all came up. And then after his third round, he was like, whew, I'm done. I need to hand this off to somebody, and you're the person that I want to hand it off to. So I've
wow.
taken it on, and I taught a class from 21 to 23, and now this class that I'm currently in will started in March of 24, and we'll probably pretty close up to March of 26. We
Mhm.
meet every Monday night for 3 hours, like I said, and we study strictly Meisner technique. We use a book that Martha wrote as a workbook, and she laid out the technique in a way that is easily accessible and
Mhm.
easily teachable. And
Mhm.
I'm loving it. Number one,
Um,
it's giving me the opportunity to practice my craft every single week. Even if I'm not getting opportunities to act on stage, I'm still engaged and I'm
mhm.
still, working the method in the classroom. So, and it's so fulfilling to meet new artists in town, people I don't know. And I've also had some folks in my class who I did know, but it's great. I also think it's wonderful because there are not very many opportunities in this town for adults to further further their craft. And I believe strongly that acting is a journey, that you're never done learning, and that just because you're getting cast doesn't mean that you still don't have some things to learn. I think
Yeah,
that if you
yeah.
asked anybody who's taken the class, they would say to you, "Oh yeah, I took
Well,
this, and this away from it."
from my point of view, all those people over the years who studied in those classes, the proof is in the pudding as far as
Mm,
I'm concerned. Bill was, at one point, he was the artistic director of the Phoenix Theater. Is that correct?
that's
And
correct.
even but way back, how I met him is I recommended him to take my place at the Edavine Repertory Theater when I left there. And then
Hmm.
he went on, I can't remember the string of things he did. He went off to fundraise for the Art Center. He is like one of the most fabulous fundraisers that we have in this town.
Agreed.
So Bill, another great actor. I've seen a lot of his work over the years. Now I think he's just consulting with the Phoenix, is he not? Or
He
is he
does. He has
on?
his own company now, and he has a whole list of clients from, excuse me, he's not working with the Phoenix any longer, but he's working for,
He
I
was
think,
on their capital campaign, I know.
yes,
Saying that
absolutely, he
about.
sure
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
And I should mention Martha Jacobs. She
Mhm.
was like a noted actor, director in
Mhm.
Bloomington. And what was her artistic home? I can't remember.
She did some things early at the Phoenix,
Mhm.
and then she also did a lot at Brown County Playhouse.
Uh-huh.
And she spent a significant amount of her early time as a young artist on the East Coast.
Yeah,
So I don't
yeah,
remember
that's
when they
right.
came to Bloomington. They
Yeah.
came to Bloomington because her partner
Mhm.
became a professor, and I can't remember
Mhm.
what he taught, but he got a gig at IU, and then she followed and ended up being a professor there as well.
Yeah. So, Michael, I don't want to leave you out. I see you sitting there
Oh no.
listening, pensive. So, buddy, I mean, what can I say? I've seen so many of your shows. I mean,
Hmm.
your history with
Hmm.
Cathedral, you are the
Yeah.
technical director at Cathedral High School. You
Yep.
are also the technical director, are you not, a summer stock stage?
I am a lighting designer for Summer Stock and Eclipse. At one point, I have done some technical direction for Summer Stock and some set design, of course. I think the main thing I've done for them is lighting over the years. I wouldn't say I'm the resident lighting designer, but I've been with Summer Stock for, gosh, I can't even tell you, over 15, 20 years maybe.
And of course, you are a collaborator of the co-founder, Emily Ristine Holloway. So let's give her a shout out. And
Yes.
she, of course, I've seen so much of her work at one of my favorite companies in town.
Mm,
I mean, those
Mhm.
young people always inspire me so much,
right.
and
Yeah.
mean, I've said it over and over again, and I've seen it happen that they've ended up on Broadway stages. They've been
Hmm.
ended up on stages all over the
Yes.
country, and
Hmm.
like three or
Absolutely.
at least four generations now, if not at least three, right?
Right.
Hmm.
I know it's got to make a difference when you're in quote community theater and yet you're in a professionally managed situation and you get to see what it's like if you ever choose to go that route in your career where you become a pro. So if you get to perform at a space like that, you're surrounded by this caliber, which is definitely can inspire you. And I'm sure people have told you that.
Absolutely. I feel like I get to watch them be elevated right before my eyes, and you see these kids performing at this level, and then they inspire each other to perform at that level, and that's kind of my favorite spot to be in. Quite
Mhm.
honestly, is to make something like that look really good.
And you have done
Um,
that at Cathedral High School as well.
yes, absolutely. Since 2003, 2002, 2003 was my first year there. And it was just interesting because the Edivine closed, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? My father had just passed away. And I was kind of, just looking around, searching, what am I going to do? And it took me about 30 days to find Cathedral, and Cathedral found me as well, I think. And it's really been a blessing to be there for me personally, just because I could have a family life and a career at the same time, and I could freelance still. I kept my connections with community theater. I worked with people like Laurel Getzinger, and just kind of connected with other areas that I didn't realize I would connect with, like Jim Ream at UND hired
Oh,
me a
yeah.
few times, and it was like, oh wow, I'm still doing what I love to do, and I get to teach, and I'd never taught before, so that was really new to me. The first few years was very hard just to kind of develop a curriculum from scratch, because there was not a curriculum there at Cathedral for tech theater. It really was. It was one class I was teaching, and I had to teach these acting classes and theater history classes, which I was not a fan of, quite honestly. I wanted to be a tech teacher. So I was like, well, can I have more tech classes? And then the next year, I had enough kids sign up for 4 sections of classes. And now I teach 6 sections of tech theater classes. So these kids are just, I get athletes, I get kids from all walks of life in to the theater. I'm teaching them, and they get to experience theater maybe for the first time and maybe the only time in their life. Who knows? But I hope to make them all theater fans.
I've been seeing a
Techs.
commercial lately. You may have seen it. It is so true. Hire a theater kid because
Right?
even if they not go don't go on to theater, you have taught them these lessons, life lessons, not only about theater, but team building and all that kind of stuff. How
Mhm.
to get along with people, how to be,
Right, collaboration. Right, right. How to be
and
Yeah.
kind. Mm,
I was not surprised. I've been following your career on Facebook mostly because we're Facebook friends, and many of us do, right? I don't
sure.
see you for years, but I know what
Right.
you're doing. But I've been following your progression. And of course, we run into each other at, theaters around town. And that's how
Hmm.
this interview came about. I ran
Right.
into,
Yeah.
when I go to theaters, I book people. It's
Yeah.
a hobby. So look for me because I'll book you if you come up and whatever. But I really want to review a show at Cathedral because I'm a big supporter of educational theater starting at the high school level. I didn't have that. I didn't discover theater until I got to college.
Mm.
And I had the guy in college, he had a PhD and he had been a technical director in the professional theater in New York, but he also came from I think Carnegie Mellon or someplace like that. I mean, he
Okay.
had extraordinary, and he chose to come to our little IU campus in Fort Wayne to start a
Ah,
theater department. It's so
gotcha.
similar to
Wow.
your story. And I got to work with this guy, and he infused these ideas and values about, you may be a student, but I'm going to treat you as a professional. And I expect in return that you be a professional. So if you have that mindset, and I would be real surprised if you don't do that yourself. Is that true?
I
I'm going to
really
jump
do.
in and answer this because I really want to say that as scary as that time was, transitioning from being in theater full time to teaching theater, it is amazing to me. And I'm going to try not to get all emotional about this, but the amount of people who have come back into Michael's life to say, hey, because of you, I went on to do this. Hey, because you welcomed me with open arms and you told me and taught me and showed me that I was worth something, I've been on to go and do this, that, and the other. Michael's got students who have gone, Daniel Dickman, who works for Walt Disney Corporation and travels the world doing lighting designs. Another young man that he mentored through Summer Stock Stage as a lighting designer for some big country star and travels the world with him. And it's just, Michael's changing the world one person at a time. by loving them and lifting them up and at such a crucial time in their lives, right? I mean, high
Oh, yeah.
school is horrible. And there he is holding court in the safest place in the building,
Mhm.
welcoming all kinds
One of
and
those
just
people I've talked to about you, Michael, is Casey Ross.
mm,
Oh yeah,
Casey,
yeah,
Casey Catalyst Repertory. She talks about you often and the influence that you had on her to go on and become a playwright
oh, that's lovely.
and to be an artistic director of her own company, you know. And I happen to think that Casey and I've collaborated, and I think, you know, as a playwright and a director, her values were instilled by you in that Cathedral High School program. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, and I'm not surprised, Casey. And you know what, the one thing I recall about you, Michael, you know, it was a tumultuous time for me taking over that theater, and I can tell you in the beginning, I did not have theater experience as you recall. And I remember when
hmm
they got the letter to vacate the premises, that I had been in talks to, you know, interviews for like I'd been interviewed by the board, I've been interviewed by you guys. We sat around and the
right,
staff
yeah.
interviewed me. Wow. I mean, I went through this process and then it stalled. And I thought, well, you know, I wonder what's going on. So you know, one day Rose called me at 8:30 in the morning and said, "Can you come in? We'd like to talk to you." And I thought, wow, what's up? And, you know, I showed up and they said, well, you know, we have to leave the theater for various reasons, blah, blah, blah. And we may not have a theater, but are you still interested in taking the job? And I said foolishly, well, I kind of knew that if I could pull it off, it would make me look great, to be perfectly honest. So I said, absolutely. You know, and it's
I mean,
like,
come
you
on.
know, when you're an actor, someone says, "Can you like ride a horse?" Well, yeah, sure.
Sure.
Exactly.
It's that kind of attitude, you know. You just
That's right.
seize the opportunity, seize the
Hmm.
day. But
Hmm.
anyway, Michael, from the very beginning, I was struck by your patience, your calmness, your kindness, and you were just such a reassuring presence. And I could tell that if you were one of the people around me, that I would be okay, you know.
Oh, that's nice.
Now, I don't
Wow.
know, but if you know, I was way over my head in the beginning. Oh my God, I was like, I lived with fear.
Oh.
Uh, but that drove me at the same time because there was stuff to get to happen, you know, and we
Mhm.
had to fast track. It seems like we
Mm.
fast tracked everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, the stuff that you were able to pull off, working with Jim Ream, who, by the way, for those listening, Jim Ream was a former theater technical head or director,
Yes.
and
And theater
he
department
taught
head. Yeah.
there at University of Indianapolis. And it was
hmm
Right.
Jim who called me and said, "Hey, I hear you're like looking for a theater. Would you consider us?" And I said, "Ah, well, there's a thought.
Hmm.
Look what happened." And
Hmm.
that's, you know, and when we moved over there, but Michael, truly those characteristics, those talents that you had, your temperament and all, I could see why you went on to a place like Cathedral and you were able to do what you've done there. And so, I mean, working with those young people, as Jolene said, you really have had a major impact, I think, in the theater community as a result. Would you agree, Jolene?
I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
His biggest
Well,
cheerleader.
thank you.
Yeah.
I love the way you both also, you know, you guys, there are couples in town. I've had Jen and Rob Johansson on the show together. I love
Sure.
putting couples together,
Yeah.
especially
You should interview the Getzingers next.
there are a lot of there are a number of theater couples, and you probably know all of them as well. So I got to ask you, do you guys talk shop much?
At home?
Yeah.
When we are doing a show together,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, of course, you have to. And we talk about maybe our situations at rehearsal. Hey, you will never believe what happened.
Right.
Um, such and such did such and such, or no, we're not quite like that. But Yeah,
Well, you got
something
a
crazy.
vat. Come on, you got a vat, a pillow talk. Oh
Exactly
my God,
right.
it's
Yeah,
driving me crazy.
Exactly. If I ever do a show with this person again, remind me not to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you have to have a space, a safe space to do that. Let's,
Sounding
yeah.
board.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yes,
right.
they still don't have their lines memorized.
Yeah. That's usually me. I'm late to the party in that regard.
Yeah, but don't you also sort of help each other too and inspire each other
Yes.
and give each other ideas
Absolutely.
back? Well,
Yes.
Jolie, what do you think about this design? What do you think what I'm trying to do here? Do you have any suggestions? Do you go back and forth like
Oh my
that too?
gosh. Jolene has helped me do paperwork for lighting design.
Mhm.
She's helped me pick colors for shows, patterns. Yeah, absolutely.
It-
Jolene has,
Doing programming has been a family thing where we all go and one of us sits at the computer, another one is down on the stage being where the other actors are supposed to be, and then yeah, so it's
And
and
a
I'm
family
like,
Michael,
affair.
have you conversely, has Jolene, auditioned for something and said, "Hey, could you take a look at, I'm going to do this piece, blah, blah, blah." Do you ever do that, Jolene, for Michael and vice versa? Do you
no,
guys?
what I do for Jolene is I run lines with her.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy,
Because
that's
it's so
right.
important. We're raising two kids.
Yeah.
She has a full-time job. She needs me to help her, of course, and I'm going to help her. And I'm not the best at reading lines sometimes. I
Yeah.
got to tell you that you really want to keep me as a lighting designer, not as an actor.
You have acted, haven't you? Or did I imagine that?
Yes. No, I
Okay.
have. I've been on stage.
Yeah, I thought
And
so.
then we've all learned that that's really not the best place for me. But I did a good job, like standing as a soldier and things like
Oh,
that.
okay. You were a townsperson or
Yes, yeah,
a spear
a spear
carrier.
holder. Yeah.
And so I wanted, of course, I wanted to talk about your kids. I feel like,
Mhm.
again, following you on Facebook, I've seen them grow up. Literally, I
Hmm.
have seen them grow up. I've never met them, but I
Oh
feel like
gosh.
I know them.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's have an update. Tell me about your kids.
So
Oh,
Lillian is in Philadelphia with her wife Hazel, making her way. She went to Bryn Mawr College and then just fell in love with the city. And
Bryn Mawr,
yeah, yeah, I
Southern
know, right?
College.
I
Wow,
didn't
big
get
deal.
accepted to Bryn Mawr. I was like, go, go. So yeah, so she's
Oh,
making her way in a
you
big
both had to
city.
work for that.
Yeah, go, please. We'll have to work for the rest of our lives. And now Sammy is a senior at Cathedral,
Oh,
getting ready to do. He's playing Dom Claude Frollo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame next weekend, as a matter of
he's an
fact.
actor?
Yeah, and he's actually
yes.
quite
Oh,
good. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and then he's going to go off to Ball State and study music composition and creative writing. But I suspect that he will always be drawn to the theater in some way. I don't know how, but same for Lillian. Just both of them have a
and
natural talent,
and if not the theater, maybe like voiceover or
some kind of
some
creative.
kind of work with creative work with your voice.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what that
Well,
really
I'd like
means,
to think
or
that, not only does, what is it, the apple falling close to the tree, but
Mm,
also the idea that when you grow up with two parents who are artists, that, there's this osmosis that happens. I mean, and
yeah.
also
yeah,
I think there's a genetic thing too that goes on,
I think so
absolutely,
too.
You
Yeah,
just
I think
inherit
so too.
stuff,
All right. And we certainly didn't
yeah.
encourage it, let me tell you.
Yeah, that was my next question. That was
No,
my
no,
next
no.
question.
We were
Yeah.
not those parents who drug our
Yeah.
kid to
Did
IRT
they
summer
go a lot?
camp.
Did you take them to like rehearsals when you couldn't find a babysitter, or did you like, whatever? Did you expose?
Every
They met
once
all
in a
your theater
while.
friends too, right?
Yes, for sure, for sure. And we didn't we tried not to do that if we didn't have to. But
Hmm.
if we were both working on a show and it was a Tech Saturday, and my folks couldn't take them all day, they'd come with us for a little while. So they understand how it works, and also, like Michael said, they're in the house while he and I are working collaboratively together on something, and so they understand how it works
You
and what it
see,
takes.
Jolene's mom lives very close to us.
Hmm.
So she would really be like
Hmm.
uh,
I don't,
our best
yeah,
babysitter
yeah,
because she was so close. But Jolene's mom was a performer as well.
right.
Did you know that,
Ah,
Tom?
yeah, no.
Jolene can
Yeah,
tell you details about that.
right.
No,
But
tell me.
so
Tell
Well,
me.
she was a professional jazz musician. She was a singer. And so all during
Locally?
growing up,
Locally?
yeah,
Okay.
locally, yeah. And so she taught private lessons in our home, piano and voice. And then every night she would go and do gigs throughout the
Wow.
city. And
What was
so,
her
yeah.
name, her professional name?
She went by Trish Ann, and she had a couple of bands, but it was by the end, it was mostly just her. She was the draw,
And do
and
you
so.
still have your mother?
Yes, yes. I'm
How
very
old
fortunate.
is
I have both
she?
my parents. My mom is she'll be 83 this summer, and my dad's
Okay.
88.
Does she still perform?
No, she doesn't. Although we did, this is kind of fun. She turned out to be the musical director for the musicals at Cathedral for, would she do 9 musicals with you, Michael?
yeah, about
Wow.
I
nine
know.
9 years.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that fun?
Cool. Tell me about your family, your people.
My dad, my dad gave me probably the theater bug. He was a minister, and I think he just always wanted to be on stage and just kind of had the theater bug in him. So later on in his life, when he was kind of floundering in his careers, he stumbled upon acting, and he actually was in a show at IRT at one point, just a little minor role as a butler in Major Barbara. But and then he was the butler in gosh,
Ernest?
Oscar Wilde. Yeah,
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 exactly. Yeah, and
yeah,
Ernst as
Wow.
well.
yeah,
You both were kind of born in a trunk. That is so fascinating
yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
And then
yeah.
my mom was the vice president of Crossroads Rehabilitation Center here in Indianapolis. So she was kind of a career woman for sure. Just an amazing person. She gave me my gentle side, I think, but so did my dad. I mean, they were both very gentle people, just like my son.
Hmm.
But my mom's brother is an artist, and he really inspired me to be a creative person and to kind of be myself. I watched him as I grew up. He was an artist in San Francisco, and he makes furniture. So it's kind of a carpentry art, if you will.
Hmm.
And so I guess through him, I feel like I get a lot of my creative abilities
Hmm.
It's
genetically, you know.
what makes your relationship? How many years have you two been married?
A long time. 28. It'll be 28 in June.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's your recipe? What's made it work? How have you sustained it?
Mutual respect.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what does that entail?
Just trying to lift each other up no matter what it is that's happening. I think that I think we're good at when I'm panicking, Michael is not. And when
Mm.
Michael is panicking, I am not. We're a good balance of seeing things from a different perspective, in trying to keep our cool. I think that's right. And I think I really do think we have a real mutual respect for each other. I think he's incredibly talented and amazingly kind. And so, yeah. Hmm. I don't
And
know what else to
Michael?
say.
Yeah, I agree. We respect each other. I feel like we go through it together, whatever it is. We don't make one person bear too much of the burden of, I mean, life you have to deal with all kinds of stuff that come at you, especially when you own a home and have kids. There are things that just pop up on a daily basis, and you have to be able to, think fast and sometimes make a split decision. But when it's a big financial decision or something like that, we kind of go through it together and we make it work. And then we try not to get too busy at the same time. So like if Jolene's doing a show, I try not to also do a show on top of that, and that way we're not both working during the day and then at night working, because that would not work. We wouldn't
No, because
have
we have
any clean.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have any clean laundry, right? Yeah, but mostly because of our kids.
Well, I got a close up of the way that you and I thought you probably do work, and you just validated my theory that the reason that we took us a while to get this podcast together because you both have these busy schedules and you
Yeah.
have these demands and you have all this stuff going on. So, do not take for granted how much I appreciate that were able to produce this. Good job,
Me
Jolie.
too. And
Go
we
ahead.
really appreciate our free time. We just
Yeah.
we are very busy, so this is actually nice to just sit down and talk. I don't do this a lot, so this is great for me just to kind of reflect on what, 28 years.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm Since
Jolie,
the
what do you do for
1900s.
a day job?
Yeah.
You didn't say.
I work for an industrial packaging supply company and I support the national accounts manager. And so I'm I don't know. He slays the dragons and I cook them up.
Wow. And so it was your degree in theater?
Yes, I went to
Okay.
Butler and
Yeah,
studied
so
with.
but you somehow it seems to me you must have along the way knew that you needed something to fall back on, huh?
I like things and I
Yeah,
and then, I fell in love and I realized I really didn't want to, I mean, to be a professional actor,
sure.
you have to be able to go
Yeah,
whenever and
sure.
wherever. And I decided that I liked it here with my love. And then we had a baby, and that changes everything. And
Yeah, you didn't want to starve and live in a garret.
I really didn't. I really didn't.
Uh,
Yeah,
well,
I got a taste of that. I did an internship in New York City with a lighting designer, and
I didn't know
um,
that. What?
Mhm.
yeah, that was my last semester of my senior year at Ohio Wesleyan, and I learned a lot, and I thought for sure that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back to New York and be a lighting designer. And then when I came back home, my dad showed me the Indianapolis News had a want ad for a
Mm.
technical director at CTS Repertory Theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a paper want ad. My dad circled it, like the classic
Oh, I
want
love it.
ads. He had circled it, and I got an interview with Doc Edivine,
Mm.
Oh my.
and he was ancient. And I think after he recommended me being hired, about four other people had to interview me as well. They didn't maybe trust him. I don't know.
Well, you were
But
right out of college,
I
so.
yeah, I was 21, I think,
Uh-huh.
and they were taking a big risk with me, and I was I was talking a big talk. I had just been to New York, and I was like, "Yeah, I know how to do this. I know how to
Yeah.
weld. I know how to." I was telling them I knew how to do everything, and I could look it all up in a book. But
Right, you
Oh.
didn't even have YouTube to help you.
yeah,
Um,
and
I
I
just
got
I
really
just love
lucky.
these stories when you're young and you're fearless,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Talk about, back when I was talking about seizing the day, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're instilling that, to your students. Hey, I always like to ask folks, really, what is your message? You do this every day for a living, Michael, and then Jolene, you've done it as an acting teacher, and just I'm sure in your dealings with young people in general. But what do you say to people who are listening or to their parents about, life in the theater And I guess with you, Michael, you've made a living out of it. Jolie, you as well. You don't work for free as an
Mm-hmm.
actor or
Mm-hmm.
director. So what would you say to people who want to consider making a living for this or their kids or whatever?
I feel like it's a little bit of a cliche, but you should do what you love and love what you do. And so, what that means is if your work is making you happy, you should keep doing it because that's what's going to make you happy. But if your work does not make you happy, you need to do something that makes you happy.
That's
Mhm.
right. I am always makes me remember when Lillian was a first semester in her sophomore year at Bryn Mawr, and she had to they make you declare your major by then, and she called one night and was just sobbing, so unhappy. And I said, and I was so ready to say, come home. You can go to any other college, doesn't matter if you're not happy there, come home. It's all good. And she said, I figured out why I'm not happy. And I said, why? What is it? And she said, I'm not doing theater. And
Mm.
I said, oh, baby, then you got to do theater. If that's what makes you happy, then you must do it in whatever capacity that means. Whether you do it as a community volunteer. Oh, that's another thing I always tell my kids. If you find yourself in a city where you don't know anybody and you need to make your way, walk into a theater and volunteer to usher and then volunteer to work backstage, and then the next thing you know, you have a family. It's an environment of collaboration which teaches you so much, and it ultimately is a family environment, right? It's where people
Mhm.
come to lift each other up, to tell stories, to engage the world on important issues or not, frivolous issues, whatever the case may be. But it's a safe and invigorating, lively place to be, and I certainly
Theaters
wouldn't.
theaters are so inclusive,
Yes,
and I
yes.
feel like theaters did inclusivity before it was
Mm-hmm.
a cool thing to do,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
right.
now it's
And
Yeah.
now
maybe it's not so cool.
Yeah.
think about the propaganda I've been espousing with all my coverage. I've got this little media empire going, and I
Mm-hmm.
am so
Mm,
fortunate to have these platforms. And you know why? Is because the attacks on I don't want this to become political. I'm talking from a cultural standpoint.
Right.
yes.
Talking about inclusiveness. We're talking about freedom of expression. We're talking about, intellectual curiosity. We're talking about creativity. What is more positive than all of that? And I
Exactly.
Yeah.
believe that the theater has a place, especially now with all the division and polarization, because when you're in a
Exactly.
theater, you don't know the politics of the people sitting next to you.
That's right.
Really one of the only places where you can go these days so that you can feel like normal,
Mm.
that you're all drawn to something we have in common, be it music, be it theater. And I think that those of us who are in the arts and artists, we are in the vanguard of change. We can
Mm.
change people's hearts and minds. What do you think about those? Do you agree with me on that? Or
Totally. Oh yes, Tom. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in times of turmoil, trouble, whatever, is when the arts are the most important, right? Because we are lifting up the voices of the unheard. We are making you think maybe a different way, reminding you of the magic of the world, right? This is a magical place we live in. And so to celebrate that magic maybe brings the heat down when things are, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So I do I'm going to change the subject a little bit because I do want to talk to you about speaking of magic, something that Michael and I are doing that's coming up in July. Will be housed in the Basile Theater space at the Phoenix Theater Cultural Center, so that black box theater in there. Michael and I, with a group of 8 other people, are self-producing under the name JoJo Tom Bilbin's Theatricals, an original piece based on the life of Annie Edson Taylor, who was the first person, let alone woman, who went over Niagara Falls in a barrel and lived to tell about it. At, get this, Tom, at the age of 63, she did this back in 1901. So with Tom Moran as the playwright, and then it's Bill Simmons will be the director, John Goodson, Benisaqui, and me, we're the actors. And then we have a design team of Michael Moffatt on lights, Dan Strain is doing the set, Tom Moran is not only the playwright, but he's also going to do the sound design. Then Emily Salt McGee, who was at one time the costume designer for the Phoenix Theater, she's doing our puppets and props. And then Allison Jones is our costume designer. And we are so excited to bring this to the world.
Wow.
It's going to
Is
be a
this are you
really
giving me
fun.
an exclusive?
I think we might be. Well, it's been on the Phoenix's website. You can get
Okay.
tickets already, but
Wow,
it promises to be a
congratulations.
really thanks very much. We're raising the
Wow.
money to do it. We've almost hit our goal, and we're gonna get there. And so it's really exciting. And the project itself is going to be a night of joy and magic and
What a great way to summarize this whole show because the two of you, I mean, it makes complete sense
yeah,
based on all of your experience, your contacts, your resources to do your own thing, to
right.
create
Yeah.
your own piece.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
And
exciting.
that's what you do, because what we're doing is we have the ability to take all the right pieces and put it all together
Oh
in
my goodness.
one place.
Hmm.
It seems like
And
everything you've done has led to this moment, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah.
we have some really good people that we're working with on this production that
Can people
just
get
are gonna
tickets?
elevate us.
Are they on sale?
They're on sale. It's on the Phoenix Theater's website, and it's called A Magnificent Fall, and it goes up in July, from July 5th until the 20th.
Is Tom Horan,
Hmm.
he was the resident playwright at the Phoenix for a
That
while.
is correct.
Brian Fonseca.
Yeah.
Let's dedicate this show to Brian Fonseca because I wanted to talk with you about Brian and
Uh-huh.
the special place. I often talk about Brian on this show because many of the people who've been on my podcast, were close friends of Brian, and
Hmm.
now there are, I consider people in our community who I consider creative people who are his descendants, so his
Mm-hmm.
legacy lives on.
Sure, sure.
Absolutely.
Both of you talk about your relationship with Brian and what he meant to you.
Gosh, the first time I worked with Brian was in the late 1900s, 1987, I think. I was still in college, and he came to see a show that David Strohmeyer directed me in at Butler because we were both students at Butler at the time. And he's responsible for me getting my equity card. And so, yeah, he was. The great thing about it was I think that Brian Fonseca was the right person at the right time in the right place.
Mhm.
Right. And he also had the ability to bring together a diverse group of folks who were unafraid and unapologetic and just did whatever they wanted to do and in really weird spaces, right? Like remember the old ambassador building, that
Oh, yeah.
tiny little space, and
Oh,
then redoing that church in Chatham Place. So yeah, he was a force, that's for sure.
yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I first met Brian because way back in the day, we had this thing called the Theater Collective. So theaters would comp other staff of other theaters. So like I could go to the Phoenix and get a comp ticket for a show. So I went to the Phoenix and I said, "Hey, I'm the technical director for the CTS Repertory Theater." And Brian Fonseca was selling tickets that night, and he was like, "Welcome to community theater, Michael." And I thought that was kind of cool. But really, I feel like my first experience with him was I designed a production of Hair for Summer Stock Stage. And at the time, we had just gotten a small moving lights package. And I had just kind of started to dabble in moving lights. And so, like, my career has been so great because I started with analog and now I'm in the digital world, and I've seen that transition. So I'm able to use things kind of in both worlds. And so here we are doing hair, which is 1960s, very analog feeling, but I could use these moving lights and kind of enhance it and elevate it into today. So Brian got to see that show,
Mhm.
and he was really interested in me, and he was like, "Hey, you want to do American Idiot?" And I was
Okay.
like, "What? Are you kidding me? American Idiot?" That blew my mind. Number one, my
Oh,
daughter's favorite
Michael,
band.
one of my favorite shows ever. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I feel like that was my coming of age. Like, I don't know, I peaked almost at that show, and I maybe plateaued, let's say not peaked, because peak means that you went back down.
Right.
Um, and that did not happen at all. It just like I realized like this is what I need to be doing. And then Zach Rosing kind of discovered me, and I started doing Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Mhm.
and just like moving lights all of a sudden became my thing,
Yeah.
and it was really because of Brian, and
Yeah.
also then Brian brought me in and had me do plays there, where I had to take it down to uh, much more of a theatrical.
Did you do
Um,
Cock by any chance? Did you
Mm-mm.
do Cock?
no, no, I did not.
Well, you did some other shows there.
Yeah, I did
You-
here. I did
Butler, Sweat.
Butler, Sweat,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Act of God.
Right.
memories. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
may I share some? This will kind of tie things together. Our how the theater community, there's so many connections. It's incestuous, and
Yeah.
1 degree of separation. You'll love
Right.
the story, Michael, because John Lamson that you spoke of, I
Hmm.
didn't know him very well, but I met him when the theater was. I was one of the founding board members. That's one of the part of the story. But John, he worked with Brian. They were very, very close,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you spoke of the Ambassador Theater, Jolene. Well, they had to repurpose it or refit it, if you recall. It was an office space.
Yes.
Brian called for a group of volunteers to show up one Sunday to tear down the walls, and
Hmm.
that, they were going to distribute sledgehammers and that show up in your work clothes, and we're gonna tear down these walls. So I show up, and there's just me and John Lamson, one of those days.
Oh.
Nobody
Oh gosh.
came. And
Mm.
boy, were we pissed. John was
Uh,
really
I
pissed.
bet he was.
I was in my little Daisy Duke shorts, and I was like, God, just this, I'm not like, just an average guy. And, I'm
Right.
certainly not a tech person, right? When I was in theater school, I'd hold a hammer. Well, what's this for? I mean, I was trying to get out of work. I was also,
Sure. Right.
anyway, so there was me and John Hampson. It was hot as shit. It was like July, whatever.
Uh,
And we had a deadline, by the way. And there's nobody there. There's me and John Lamson. So he puts me to work, gets you a sledgehammer. There we are, knocking down wall.
that's awesome.
Wow, I would never forget that.
Uh-huh.
His work ethic.
Right.
And, he really intimidated me, not only because he was a great actor, he was in Warp, if you recall.
Yes. Oh, sure.
Warp. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But he was also, as a technical person, he intimidated the hell out of me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He had this really gruff kind of manner. But then
Oh yeah.
he worked for me in a TV project that I did and was, an actor with Mary Fleck. And
Oh, sure. Oh.
we did a docudrama called A Woman's Story. And I used a lot of theater actors, Deb Sargent, just
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne Fleener, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that is one of my fondest memories that I can say that I helped tear down the walls to start the Phoenix Theater.
That's
So,
so awesome. That's so
yeah.
awesome. And that's what theater does, right? Helps tear down walls.
Oh, yeah,
So
exactly.
lovely.
Well, this has been an absolute delight. I knew it would be because our history is rich together, but so what do you have to say to our listeners around the country? One of my missions, it's twofold to promote local arts and arts organizations, but also to shine a spotlight on Indianapolis. You
Hmm.
good work is being done everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just because you're operating in a place like Indianapolis in regional theater or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're not talented, you
And
know?
sometimes it allows you more freedom when you're
Yep.
in this size of a market because you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to go big and see what happens. You're allowed to, do like site-specific stuff without spending a gazillion dollars. And
Hmm.
yet, I will say this, that art is not free. Right? And so that it's really important
Yep.
that we lift each other up so that we continue to get the resources that we need to make our art better, to raise the bar for what we're doing in this town. But I think you're right, Tom. I think there's lots of talent here, lots of it. And we're all just, trying to make our way, right?
Michael, I have seen some of the best theater around the country. I make regular trips to New York because, doing what I do, I think, I want to come from a perspective of, knowing my stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what the best is doing. And I'm always
Hmm.
amazed at your work because there's a quality to it. You could do set design anywhere, including Broadway. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can say that with authority. Anyway, you both, as far as I'm concerned, are world-class artists. I'm
Well,
thrilled that
thank you.
you're able to take the time to hang out with me on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And so
I need
I
another cup of
will,
coffee.
I will be definitely on the aisle at your show.
Excellent. Good. We will see you there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so
Well,
much, Tom.
good luck with the show.
Thanks very much. We'll
Thanks.
talk
It's
soon, I
been my
hope.
pleasure.
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.